Now, in the last episode, we hit part one of the framework formula where we laid out all of the content blocks. So, what we want to do now is we want to take one of those blocks and build it out using a process that you can utilize over and over and over and over again in all of your teaching, all your training, all your coaching, all your articles, your posts. It don't really matter what it is. It's going to be 3 P's, a shift, and then 5 P's. So we're going to take one of the content blocks that were created in the last video, pull it out, and go step by step into how you create the content for it. You'll see how powerful this is, but also how easy it is so that you can utilize it over and over again. So let's get started. All right, so here's the fitness formula that we set out last time with fuel, fit, focus, motive, mode, means, workout, knockout, timeout, resist, or resist, rest, and restore. And so you see every one of those elements, and that's exactly what we did in the last episode. So if you want to go and see how we designed that, make sure you watch that previous episode. So let's get a clean sheet. All right, so what we want to do is pull out mode. Let's use that as our example. So it was the second block on the top when we were talking about fuel. So mode is all about making the decision, am I going to do fat loss? Am I going to do muscle building? Am I going to do both? So that's really the decision there that you're going to construct everything out of. So let's say, so fat loss, muscle building, or both. And what we're trying to construct is the mode of which one of those we're going to do and how that's going to look. What are they going to be facing? And then how are they going to be able to be dedicated to it to the point in which they're going to be able to actually get to their goal? So one of the things you saw with the monetization matrix is that you always saw a shift that was in here. And we're going to get to that in just a minute. But that's what these two pieces are for. What's the shift? Where are we now and where are we going? So we want to make sure that we designate that. The formula that I love to use is 3P, the shift, and 5P. The 3P is 3 problems that people are going to face in this mode. The 5P are what are the 5 principles that need to be focused on in order to make this mode possible. So whether it's fat loss or muscle building or both, that the problems are actually going to be the same and the principles are going to be the same. Now, of course, I'm talking about fitness, but it really doesn't matter what industry we're in. You can still use this same process. So let's begin talking about the 3 problems. And what I tend to do is just list them organically first, and then I bring the alliteration in. So 3 problems. And then 5 principles, which I'll shift this up when it's time. So 3 problems overall is that people really want to get the fat loss or the muscle building or whatever. They want it to be fast. Now the second thing that they really want is they want it to be extreme. Right? Have you heard anybody say, you know what, I'd love to lose a pound a month? Never. It's always, I want to lose 30 pounds in a month. And then third, I don't know why this happens, but we do it, I think, in every single industry, is that we complicate it. So we try to make sure that, hey, I want this as fast as possible. I want it extreme as possible. And then I'm going to start processing and putting my plan together. I'm going to make it as complicated as possible. So those are 3 problems. And here's what I'm going to do is next time I'm going to actually build out slides and then walk through it as if I was teaching this as a module. But for now, so what I tend to look at is how can these things rhyme? So I go to like Rhyme Zone or Rhyming Dictionary or something along those lines. And so what I used was fast is going to equal speed, extreme is greed, and complication is weed. No, not that type of weed. It's getting in the weeds. It's making it so complicated that you've lost focus. So if I was teaching this, and I'll do this in the next episode, I would talk about the 3 challenges, the 3 problems to really getting fit when you're choosing your mode is number one, the problem is speed. We want it to be faster than you can imagine. And that's going to hold us back because when we don't hit it at that level, we're going to end up feeling like we're decelerating and we're going to end up discouraged. Secondly is greed. We want it all. We can't simply lose a pound. We've got to lose 50. And then we get off in the weeds. We start complicating it. We're measuring macros and micros and we're timing every single bite. So see, I'll take that and I'll really dive into it and try to share, how this ends up coming about. So when you're looking at your industry, what are the 3 problems? And remember, this is only one block out of 9 in this particular example. This one block is only about these 3 problems and then 5 principles. But it's going to be the same in every single block. Every block is going to have 3 problems and 5 principles and also a shift. And so when we're thinking about the shift of mode, I think about it this way, is that people become drones. They become almost as if, hey, I'm gonna follow somebody else's plan and process, and I'm just gonna make it automatic, and I'm gonna try not to think. So I'm gonna say drone there, but what do they need to be? We all need to be in the zone. Again, I'm rhyming. I'm gonna use alliteration, and the reason we do that, because some people will say, hey, that sounds elementary. It sounds like you're dumbing it down, but the truth is that our memories and our minds connect to that. And it also shows that there was thought that was involved. So could I say, hey, there's 3 problems. Number 1, we want things too fast. Number 2, we want things too extreme. Number 3, we complicate things. Sure, but speed, greed, and weed will anchor in the mind even more, and it will allow people to feel like, ooh, I'm receiving this extreme value. Okay, so then the shift is from drone to zone. From drone to zone. What we want, if we're really going to hit the mode, whether it's fat loss or muscle building or both, we want to be in the zone. We want to come in here and own this so that every workout and every meal, we feel like we are dialed in. And most people don't. Most people don't feel dialed in at all. So see, even while this isn't a product of mine, you can even hear a little bit of that passion, right? Because zone is passionate. Drone is not passionate at all. So you're shifting them from a place of low quality, low existence, low passion to a place of excitement, to a place of desire where they want to exist. So you think about as they're taking your training and they hear this shift, they're going to self-identify, ooh, I'm a drone. And then they're going to also say, I want to be in the zone. So you're creating this shift and this future view. Now, how's it going to happen? It's going to happen through the 5 principles. So the 5 principles, that if I'm thinking about this, then I'm going to say, well, you know what? If you're going to really achieve things in this mode, you're going to have to set a goal. You're going to have to be committed. You're going to have to say, hey, no matter what. You're going to set a time. Let's say a place. And you're going to have an immovable deadline. So what's an immovable deadline? That means that if you say, I'm going to achieve this goal in 90 days, those 90 days don't get to shift. A few years ago, I decided to run a half marathon because a buddy of mine was doing it and was getting lean. It was a stupid decision. But I wasn't ready for the marathon. I shouldn't have gone. But it was immovable. I didn't get to call up the race coordinators the day before and go, okay, guess what? I'm not in the best of shape. I'm thinking that if we could have another month or 2, I could get ready. They weren't going to move it for 5,000 people. So an immovable deadline. We'll hit that again here in just a minute because we're going to turn all of these into D's. These won't rhyme, but they'll all be D's. Now you think about this. The 5 principles, if I said, hey, there's got to be a goal, a commitment, a no matter what attitude, a time and a place, an immovable deadline, you'd say, okay, that's valuable information. But it's hard to remember and it's hard to connect with. So let's turn all of those into D's. The goal is really, it's destination. Where are you trying to get to? What is the final location? What's the end of the map, the end of the road? Number 2, when I talk about commitment, you got to be devoted. You've got to be devoted to this goal, to this destination, that you almost have to be obsessed. You've got to go after it. Number 3 is discipline. So if I say, hey, you got to have a no matter what attitude, it means it's discipline. Discipline is all about doing what you need to do, what you have to do, when you have to do it, whether you want to or not. And when I make the screens for next time when we walk through that, we'll probably put that quote in there. Number 4 is a time and a place. But what would be a D there? I'd put designate. We're going to designate a time and a place so that we're not simply out there guessing. We're not out in the wind. We're focused, and we know when we're going to eat. We know what we're going to eat. We know when we're going to work out. And we know exactly what we're going to do. And number 5, I said immovable deadline, but it's a D. So let's say deadline. So when we dive into this mode, when we tell people about their fuel, about being focused, about choosing exactly what they want to do and how they want to do it, we say, look, you've got some decisions to make. Do you want fat loss? Do you want muscle building? Do you want both? Here's the challenge. The challenge is that we want things fast. We want things to have speed. And because of that, it causes us to make poor decisions. Number 2, we've got greed. We want things to be extreme. We don't simply want to lose a pound or even build a pound. We want multiple pounds. We want double digits. And number 3 is weed. We've got to weed things out and not make it so complicated. All right, so see, I just dropped in those just super quick. And then I'll say, because the real reason of understanding what the problems are is that we've got to make a shift. We've got to make a shift from being a drone to getting in the zone. Now, how do we do that? Well, there's 5 principles that allow us to get in the zone. Number 1 is you got to choose your destination, blah, blah, blah. Number 2, you got to be devoted and committed to exactly what you want to do. Number 3, got to be disciplined. Number 4, you got to designate time and places. Number 5, you got to set a deadline, and a deadline that is immovable. So as you can see, this 3P, 5P process with the shift in the middle can be used over and over and over again. Now you may feel like, well, that becomes predictable. It's not true. I've taught 2- and 3-day events using a framework, using the 3Ps and the 5Ps and the shift, and nobody picked up on it at all. In fact, I usually close out the last session and say, if you've enjoyed this content, would you like me to share with you how I put it together? And then they're like, oh, now it's obvious. But they never picked up on it, because sometimes I'll use the word problem, sometimes I use the word challenge, sometimes I'll say issues, sometimes I say 5 principles, 5 elements, 5 protocols. So you get to use that terminology and shift it and tweak it just a bit so that it's going to fit that particular module. So next time we'll dive in to taking this mode and making it an actual module. I'll build out screens in PowerPoint, actually technically Keynote because I'll be using Apple, and show you exactly how to put that together, what the process is like, and what to make it look like. Hey, as always, success is not an accident. Be blessed.